Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you're curious about, jump right in, and pull out the key insights. Basically a shortcut to getting you well informed.
And today we're diving into something, well, pretty unique. We've got excerpts from The Messengers, written down by Francisco Cândido Xavier, supposedly channeled from a spirit named André Luiz.
Right, psychography. So messages apparently coming directly from the spirit world.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating, I think, is the glimpse it gives us into this spirit world structure.
Yeah, we're focusing on this place called No Solar, which translates to our home, right? Think of it as a kind of spiritual city, a base for learning and service after life on Earth.
And it's all about their outreach to us here on Earth.
So we're going to meet spirits who used to live here. Some are learning new things, some are serving.
And others are still, working through stuff from their past lives, maybe needing some help.
Okay, so what are we hoping to uncover? We mentioned the structure.
Yeah, the organization of spiritual work.
Yeah.
How they actually prepare spirits to come back as messengers.
What spiritual help really looks like.
Yeah.
And this big one, how our thoughts, our feelings actually affect things on both sides, spiritual and earthly.
It's a lot to unpack.
Definitely. Okay, so let's start with No Solar itself, the structure you mentioned.
Right, so the first thing we see is this figure, Aniceto. He's an instructor, and he has a whole team, assistants, learners.
And there's this mention of a supplementary quadro, like a training group.
Exactly, 50 spots for apprentices, apparently. And when this was written, there were 3 vacancies. It gives you this sense of ongoing training, constant preparation for service.
It sounds almost like a spiritual university or training center.
Kind of, yeah. And it's not just general training. Aniceto actually groups the learners based on their old jobs from Earth.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, the text mentions former priests, doctors, engineers, teachers, nurses, painters, even domestic workers and other laborers.
Wow. So the skills you learned here, they still matter there. Nothing's wasted.
That seems to be the key idea. Your experiences, your talents, they have ongoing value. It's collective effort in No Solar, but aimed at specialized work when they connect back with Earth, using what they know.
Okay, that makes sense. And there's this point about the instructors benefiting too.
Yes. Aniceto apparently emphasizes that the teachers gain the most. It's not just about giving information. Teaching helps them deepen their own understanding.
Oh, that's a neat perspective on learning, isn't it? Growth is always happening.
It seems so.
Ah.
And the ultimate goal, it's pretty profound. They're not just training messengers.
No.
They're preparing them to be, and this is a direct quote, living letters of Jesus for incarnate humanity.
Wow, living letters. That really elevates the purpose, doesn't it?
It really does. It highlights the potential impact they believe this work can have.
So No Solar sounds like this hub of positive activity, growth, service, but it's not all smooth sailing, is it?
No, definitely not. The text brings up challenges like this idea of spiritual rust.
Just spiritual rust. What's it?
It's like if you don't actively use your psychic abilities or your spiritual knowledge, they can get rusty, harder to access.
Ah, like the old use it or lose it principle, but applied spiritually.
Exactly. It emphasizes that spiritual growth isn't passive. You have to stay engaged. And tied to that, there's apparently a shortage of workers who are willing to really stick with the difficult tasks.
Really? Even there, people shy away from the tough jobs.
It seems so. The text mentions a tendency to avoid the front lines or maybe step back when perhaps easier or more appealing opportunities come along.
That's a bit surprising, maybe a bit disheartening. You'd think things might be different there.
Well, it highlights that challenges like commitment and motivation might be more universal than we think. The text gives an example, actually.
Yeah.
This failing doctor spirit. He apparently had a mission on Earth, but got sidetracked by his own interests. It shows how, even with good intentions, losing focus can derail things.
So personal responsibility is still key, even after life.
Very much so. And that leads into a broader point the text makes about how our collective understanding evolves.
You mean our religious ideas, philosophical views, they change over time.
Right. They develop as human consciousness itself develops. And there's a specific critique here.
Go on.
About spreading ideas like eternal torment. The text argues it's more about understanding how we create our own infernos through our actions, a more internal, self-created consequence.
That's a very different take than traditional fire and brimstone, isn't it? More psychological almost.
It is, but then there's this kind of worrying observation that humanity collectively seems to be getting closer to Lower spiritual vibrations.
Lower vibrations. Wait, how does that square with all our scientific progress? Seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? The text points out this paradox. We're advancing scientifically, yet experiencing more issues like mental health struggles, rising crime, afflictions of the soul, as it puts it.
So material progress doesn't automatically equal spiritual progress.
Apparently not. The source suggests a lot of people on Earth might not be quite ready for the, let's say, evolutionary shifts happening now. And it adds another layer.
Which is?
Increasing influence of spirits who haven't moved on, who are still very much attached to Earth's, well, energy field. These vibrations seem to represent levels of spiritual energy. Lower means more earthbound, higher means more refined.
Okay, so there's kind of spiritual drag almost from these attached spirits.
That seems to be the implication. And this ties into a critique of how some people approach spirituality on Earth.
How so?
Well, there's a pretty strong claim that some people seek out movements like Spiritism just to sort of twist the principles for their own benefit.
Ouch. Using spirituality for personal gain.
That's the accusation. It suggests the human ego can infiltrate anything, even spiritual seeking. The text calls out mediums who prefer to be unconscious during their work.
Implying they avoid responsibility or full awareness.
Perhaps. And also doctrinators, teachers of spiritual ideas who create concepts for others but don't really live by them themselves.
Ah, the do as I say, not as I do problem.
Exactly. And it also mentions this influx of people looking for easy answers, comfort, without wanting to do the hard work of self-reflection.
So seeking spiritual paths as a kind of escape rather than a path to growth.
That seems to be the concern raised.
Yeah.
It really makes you question the purpose of engaging with spirituality. Is it just for comfort, or is it about real transformation?
Yeah, and the text provides examples of spirits who, well, didn't quite manage that transformation right.
It does. Take Ottavio. He apparently knew a lot, evangelical knowledge, had guidance, but failed. Why? Imprudence, vanity. Especially after his father died. He neglected his family, got into vices.
So knowing the right things isn't enough, you have to do them.
That's the core insight, isn't it? Knowledge needs consistent application in how you actually live.
Then there was Asura, the medium.
Right. Her failure was different. Irritation, intolerance. Her family wasn't interested in spiritual stuff, and she couldn't handle it patiently.
Ah. So she couldn't practice the understanding she probably advised others to have. Especially hard with family, I suppose.
Exactly. It's a reminder that wisdom has to be lived, not just talked about.
And the last one was Bellarmino, the failed doctrinator.
Yes. His issue was prioritizing the outward teaching over his own inner work, preaching patience while being impatient himself. Hypocrisy, basically.
So authenticity is crucial, especially if you're guiding others. Your actions have to match your words.
Absolutely. True authority comes from living the principles, not just knowing them.
Okay, so we've seen the structure, the challenges, the individual pitfalls. What about the support systems? How does the spirit world actually help?
Well, the text talks about these coasts of relief. Think of them as support stations, located closer to Earth's vibrational field. Transitional zones.
Why are they needed? Is it hard to get close to Earth?
Apparently, yes. The text mentions challenges with volatility. That's the spirit's ability to move consciously in the denser energy near Earth. Sometimes they need specific energetic transport.
Like needing a different kind of vehicle for rough terrain.
Good analogy. And there's this really touching detail
What's that?
about the more advanced spirits. Their natural luminosity, their light, is so bright it could be overwhelming or even painful for spirits who are suffering or less developed.
So they have to dim themselves.
Wow.
Out of compassion.
Exactly. It shows incredible sensitivity. And it also points to how perception works there. What's clear to one spirit might be blinding to another. Communication is layered.
That's beautiful, actually. Okay, what about prayer? It seems important in this source.
Hugely important. It's described as gymnastics of the spirit.
Gymnastics, meaning it strengthens you.
Yes. And if you neglect it, it can lead to spiritual stagnation, like needing a period of sleep to recover. It's presented as an active exercise, vital for well-being.
And it's more than just asking for things.
Oh, yeah. It's communion, a connection. And it creates a powerful magnetic influx, like drawing in positive spiritual energy.
But there's a flip side too, isn't there?
There is. The text distinguishes between benevolent prayer, seeking good, and malevolent prayer, which, well, it can attract lower, unhelpful influences.
So our intentions in prayer really matter. They direct the energy.
Precisely. It highlights our responsibility for the energy we put out there, and the effects are tangible, apparently.
How so?
Collective prayer is shown to have visible effects on spirits who are dormant in these pavilions of those who sleep.
So group prayer can actually reach and help those who are kind of stuck.
It seems so.
Hmm.
And our own ability to receive and channel this prayer energy, this element's force, as the text calls it, depends on our own spiritual level.
The more developed you are, the more you can handle and share.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It enhances our capacity to both receive help and give it. And a comforting thought is added. Divine help often comes through others.
So we help each other, and God helps through us. But we still need to make the personal effort.
Absolutely. Personal effort is always central.
Okay, let's shift back to Earth for a moment. The text mentions excusism. That sounds familiar.
Doesn't it? It's basically all the excuses we make to avoid spiritual responsibilities.
Like what? What examples does it give?
Oh, the usual suspects. Too busy, too old, too young. Can't because of money. Can't because of family obligations.
Ah. Yeah, we're pretty good at finding reasons not to do things, aren't we?
We are. The text suggests it often comes from maybe not fully grasping the importance of spiritual growth, or maybe just being afraid of the changes it might bring. Material stuff seems more urgent.
Right. But no solar itself, it's not all serious work in avoiding rust, is it? There's a social life.
Oh, definitely. The text mentions marital unions existing there in a place called Campo de Paz, Field of Peace. Love and companionship continue.
That's nice to hear. And it says beautiful earthly acts are refined.
Yes, continued and purified. There are social gatherings, practicing love one another genuinely without the hypocrisy we sometimes see here.
And art and music.
Very much present. Inspired by even higher spiritual planes. There's a story about a painting of St. Denis.
Tell me about that.
Well, an earthly artist painted it, inspired spiritually. But the copy of the painting existing in the spirit world is apparently even more beautiful, more luminous. It suggests art can be a channel for higher truths.
And that spiritual influence can enhance artistic expression itself. Wow.
Yeah. And speaking of relationships, there's the example of Ismalia and Alfredo.
What happened with them?
Ismalia's love is described as selfless, but she chose to wait, to defer their permanent union, because Alfredo still needed more spiritual growth.
So even in deep love, individual growth comes first. For a true spiritual union, they both needed to be ready.
That seems to be the principle. Her willingness to wait shows a really deep understanding of spiritual progress.
That's quite profound. Okay, what about those spirits who are described as being asleep?
Right, these are spirits in a state of suffering, often linked to their past lives. Their sleep isn't restful. It's filled with nightmares, reflecting their earthly mistakes or traumas.
So they're trapped in their own past, in a way.
It seems like a period of processing, maybe? But the text makes it clear that breaking free from these self-made torments isn't necessarily quick or easy. It takes effort, maybe assistance.
And does assistance come during our sleep, too? Does the spirit world interact with us in dreams?
Yes, the dream state is mentioned as a key time for interaction and guidance. But there are difficulties.
Like what? Why are dreams often so confusing?
The text called it the thick veil of earthly vibrations. It makes clear communication hard. Plus, we tend to forget most of it when we wake up.
Ah, so the message gets garbled by the time it reaches our conscious mind.
Something like that. It makes things fragmented or symbolic. But the text does recommend something we can do on Earth to help.
What's that?
Domestic spiritual practices, like family worship, called culto domestico. It's seen as a way to build inner light and create a defense against lower influences.
So having a regular spiritual practice at home creates a kind of positive energy field.
That's the idea. A source of personal strength and collective protection through shared prayer and focus.
Okay, let's talk more about guidance and healing. The text mentions interpreting scriptures differently.
Yeah, tailoring interpretations to different levels of understanding. Which makes sense, right? Not everyone is ready for the same depth.
It also touches on science, mentioning Freud.
Right. It suggests that even brilliant scientific minds might have limitations in fully grasping spiritual realities. Not a criticism of science itself, but an acknowledgement that different tools might be needed for different realms.
So science explores the physical, but might miss the spiritual.
Perhaps. It needs different perspectives. And we see compassion again with spiritual reunions.
Helping grieving relatives in the spirit world.
Yes, offering comfort across the veil.
All
It
right.
emphasizes those ongoing connections. And a key principle comes up again regarding assistance.
Which is?
You receive what you need, not necessarily everything you ask for. There's a higher wisdom guiding the help given.
Because just getting everything you want might not help you grow. Sometimes you need the challenge.
Exactly. And resisting that guidance has consequences. The case of Amaro is mentioned. He clung to negativity and resisted help.
And what about death itself? Does it touch on that?
Briefly, it mentions spiritual intervention during near-death experiences, a gentle separation of the spirit body, and also this idea of our invisible retinue,
Or what?
the spirits we attract based on our choices and lifestyle, attract like, essentially, our companions in the unseen.
That's something to think about. And the view of nature.
It's interesting. The earthly day is seen as primarily for our service, our growth as incarnate beings. Nighttime is more for spiritual work, guidance, rectification.
And spirits are involved with plants.
Yes, preparing for future incarnations, apparently. And there's a sense of nature suffering because of human vanity and exploitation.
So a spiritual ecology almost. Responsibility towards the planet itself.
It seems so. Even natural elements like nitrogen are mentioned, with an emphasis on using them responsibly. It's all interconnected.
Okay, so as we get towards the end of the excerpts, what are the final encounters like?
They show active preparation before assistance meetings, spirits getting ready to help. But also the challenges.
Challenges like?
Helping those who arrive still clinging to earthly ideas about illness or very materialistic mindsets, even after death. It's hard to let go.
So you need to be firm, but also tender when helping them.
Exactly. A balance. And the idea of spiritual debts following people reinforces that our actions have lasting consequences.
And Aniceto's final words.
They're words of blessing and encouragement. Keep up the effort. Maintain faith. The journey continues.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to take in from these excerpts. So wrapping this up for you, our listener, what are the big takeaways here?
I think this dive into the messengers paints this incredibly detailed picture, doesn't it? A structured spirit world, busy with learning, service, and yes, challenges trying to connect with us.
Yeah, and the themes that keep coming up, personal responsibilities, huge.
Absolutely. And the need for genuine interchange, not just going through the motions. Plus the power of love, the power of prayer. How interconnected it all is.
So, for you listening, someone interested in knowledge, those aha moments, this offers a really different lens on life, death, maybe the connections we don't always see.
Right. It pushes you to think beyond just the material world. Consider these other potential forces, these other realities described in the text.
So here's that final thought for you to chew on. If you take these ideas seriously, even just as a thought experiment, how might understanding these kinds of spiritual dynamics influence how you approach your life, your relationships, your own growth?
Yeah, what does it mean if consciousness isn't just brain chemistry? What happens after? What unseen influences might be around us? It definitely gives you food for thought.
And maybe it makes you think about the nuggets of knowledge hidden in sources you're looking at. Feel free to share them with us if you'd like another deep dive sometime.
Definitely. Well, thanks for joining us on this exploration today. It's been fascinating.
It really has. Until next time.